All right, so we're back for day two, mastering the law of attraction. And I want to just talk about goals, paradigms, what are paradigms, and kind of just reiterate what we were talking about yesterday so it could sink in, okay? So once again, there's a thinking stuff from which all things are made. A thought impressed upon the stuff produces the thing that's imagined by the thought. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a penny and $1 million, right? So you have to have a goal. You have to know what you want. You have to write it down. Now, like for me, I have my goal in my wallet. Okay. I actually got this coin when I was in Florida, but behind my coin is my goal. I have the goal right here. Now, this, you want to look at it every day. Okay. You want to see it. You want to feel it. You want to connect with it. You want to act as if. Okay. Now, paradigms are basically your conditioning, right? Paradigms are how you were raised, what you believe in, and they're there to hold you back, okay? But you can change the paradigm. You can have new paradigms that will basically get rid of the old paradigm. So it's really important that if you're jumping on these calls, for you to have a pen and write down what you want, because it's not going to manifest if you don't have it written down. Now, when I wrote down, let me make sure my phone is on silent here. I'll put on silent real quick. When when I wrote down that I wanted to make $1.75 million, like I said, the most I've ever made was like 70,000, somewhere around there. Um, but I wrote it down, and when you write it and you put a date on it, it 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 just starts pulling in the gravity like a black hole. It starts pulling in the thing that you want. Now, some people, they want to write a realistic goal, something that's attainable. And actually, that's what I did the first time was, hey, I'm gonna write down that I'm gonna make $1.75 million. So I wrote that down, and it was something easy. It wasn't easy for me, but I thought it was obtainable because I'm like, okay, well, if I'm signing up clients at like $4,000 a client or $5,000 a client, all I need is like 2, 3, 400 clients, and I can reach my goal. Um, but you have to take something you're good at, and you have to take action. You want to write it down, but sometimes you don't have to write it down. Sometimes you could just like write down something that is like over the top, right? Like I want to have a $10 million home, right? And you might not have ever made $10 million, right? But the whole purpose of what we teach and helping people get to that point is to use the higher faculties, right? Now, because the subconscious mind is always thinking and it has no ability to reject, when you write down what is it that you want, right? When you write it down, it starts attracting those things into your life. In the beginning, it might not seem like that. In the beginning, it might seem like you're wasting your time. Um, but when I realized that the law is precise, and what do I mean by that? What I mean is that in in like 1950, John Kennedy, he asked Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun was the scientist. He asked him, "Hey, you know what? I want to send people to the moon because we were in competition with Russia, right?" So he's like, Werner von Braun says, "You can send someone to the moon and you can time the landing by a precision of a fraction of a second." So that means that you can send someone up there to the moon and you can time the landing by a precision of a fraction of a second because the laws are precise. So mathematically, it's precise. Like you don't get two seasons in the same year. You don't get two winters in the same year. You get the seasons, summer, spring, fall, right? But you guys have to understand that when you're attracting things in your life, you're not dealing with what you can see. You're not dealing with your lower faculties, what you can see, what you can smell, hear, and touch. You're not dealing with that. You're dealing with what you can't see. Now, like when people get to their goal, they're excited about their goal. But I don't get excited because I know that that's just one step of what other things that you could attract. Out here in California, my sister just bought a house and she's excited. I'm kind of excited, right? But I'm like, this is just a house, right? Um, there's a thinking stuff from which all things are made. And that's part of the thinking stuff, all the energy. But that's just the year 2021. There's more things that she's going to set out to accomplish. And the same thing goes for you. You know, you might think that the goal is something that is not realistic. And it's okay to think that way. It's okay to think, you know, this goal is not realistic, but you're stretching yourself to the possibilities that, like Genevieve B. says, when you bring these unseen causes into harmony with your conception, you can make practical working realities of possibilities. So all possibilities are there. You're choosing the one that you want by having the pen. If you haven't written down your goal in a goal card like the one I have in my wallet, you're wasting your time. You have to write this stuff down. You have to put a date on it. And you just never know where you're going to be. You know, you can be in one place, but your life could totally change with this information. There is another way. You can work hard, but you're doing a quantum leap because you're using this information and studying it and applying it to your personal life, to your family life, to your business life. And you're doing a quantum leap. And like I said, like time, money, and freedom is where you want to be. I'm in California right now, you know, and sometimes I forget what day it is. So time, money, and freedom, guys. If you don't have that, then you have a job. If you can't jump in on a plane, or if you can't, you know, buy the house that you want or the clothes that you want, then you're in the old system. You're working in the old system. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you that it was easy for me, you know, to make $9 an hour to making millions of dollars, right? That wasn't easy. But when I realized that it's just thinking stuff, like Wallace Waddle says, there's the thinking stuff from which all things are made. Now that thinking stuff, I guess you can just go back to how the planet was formed, right? It just started grabbing stuff that wasn't condensed. It was becoming condensed. It was making something physical, and it was pulling stuff and pulling stuff. And eventually, you know, we had water, air, grass, trees, animals, us, right? But this energy is all around you. Like I said yesterday, there was a photographer, Samion Curling. He perfected a form of photography. When you could take a picture of someone, you could see this energy leaving the body. So this energy is intelligent. It's looking to become, and you're thinking outside. You're not thinking inside. You're not thinking that everything was created in the mind. Everything started in the mind. The thought of a pen was first started in the mind. So everything is mind. I quote James Allen because he says, mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore he takes the tools of thought, shaping what he wills, brings 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills, positive or negative. He thinks in secret and it comes to pass. His environment is but his looking glass. So when people are broke and on welfare and are depending on the government to help them, they're like that because all they've seen was that growing up. And if the most you've ever seen is 70, $50,000 a year, then you're stuck. That's why we have paradigms. These are where the paradigm is. So the paradigm is like a brick wall. It doesn't let you break through to make 100, 3, 4, a million, 10, 20, 50 million. It doesn't let you break through. And you have to break through that wall to go into the higher bracket of income or a better lifestyle, or to be able to have time, money, and freedom. How are you going to have time, money, and freedom if you work for a company, if you're depending on someone to write you a check? It's just thinking stuff, guys. When it goes down to it, it just goes down to energy, right? Now, there's a person, his name is Ernest Holmes. He talked about this, and he said, Ernest Holmes said that, if you guys want to Google him, Ernest Holmes says that when humanity figures this stuff out, we're not going to have to work because we're going to depend on the law to bring us anything we want. So we're just going to just like bring it to us, attract it. Just like when the earth was formed, it was pulling in all this energy, right? Just like the sun is energy. You are a magnet, guys. You are a magnet. So you're receiving this energy and you're also letting go of this energy, okay? So you're receiving and you're releasing this energy. So you're getting it, but you're also giving it, right? And you have these antennas and they're picking up something that either you want or you don't want. And the reason that you're getting what you don't want is because you're only talking about what you don't want, because you're thinking, how am I going to be successful? How am I going to attract this? Because you're thinking about what you don't want. You're saying more of the same. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay the car. I need to get a loan. I need should not be in your vocabulary. You don't need, you have. So change your words because they're there to help you. So your words are being sent out and they're coming back to you. So send out the non-reality, send out the dream, right? I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm in California, I'm going to the beach, buying property throughout the world, right? I'm so happy and grateful now that I have residual income through multiple sources. I'm so happy and grateful now that I don't have a boss. I write my own check. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have no debt. I have, $10 million available for me cash at any time in my savings account. And when you talk, you actually create a picture. When you say it, you create a picture. If you can't create a picture on your own, then you need to say it out loud. So, like, for instance, Andrew Carnegie, when he was telling Napoleon Hill, he's like, look, go in front of a mirror and tell yourself, Napoleon, not only will you surpass Andrew Carnegie in life, you're going to meet him at the post and beat him at the Grand Slam. Now, what does that mean? That means that Napoleon Hill has made more millionaires than Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie only made 10 millionaires. Charles Schwab was one of them. But Napoleon Hill, through his books, The Laws of Success, Outwitting the Devil, Think and Grow Rich, How to Raise Your Own Salary, all those books made Napoleon Hill richer than Andrew Carnegie. Now, at that time when Napoleon Hill met Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill didn't even have enough money to get back home because he was a newspaper reporter. He was interviewing the richest person in the world, Andrew Carnegie, in the early 1900s. But Andrew Carnegie gave him a task. He said, do you want to teach about the law of attraction? Do you want to talk to people about success? And he said, yeah, Mr. Carnegie, sir, you can depend on me that I will achieve it, right? So they said it took him about 28 seconds. I said that yesterday on our call. But I'm literally sitting in New York in Carnegie Hall watching Bob Proctor talk about that conversation of how Napoleon Hill met Andrew Carnegie. But Napoleon Hill's life basically turned it upside down, because at that point, Napoleon Hill thought that working hard was going to make him wealthy. He wanted to be wealthy. Everybody wants more than what they have. You're not going to sit here and say, look, Ross, I don't want more money. I don't want a bigger house, or I don't want to travel. I don't want to have residual income. I don't want to be free. So then you want the opposite. You don't want money. You don't want to travel. You don't want a bigger home. You don't want a bigger paycheck. You don't want to write your own check, to write your own ticket. You don't want that, all right? But the reality is that we're here to create, we're here to grow, we're here to expand. And that's why that law comes in, the law of, if you're not creating, you're disintegrating. If you're not growing, you're dying. You're here to grow. And making more money is a part of that growth. They talk about like rich people won't go into the kingdom of heaven. It's the love of money, So you're not supposed to use people to get money. You're supposed to get money to help people, right? So somewhere down the line, they confused everything that God is trying to tell you. God is trying to tell you that he wants you to have a better life for you and your family. He's trying to tell you that he wants you to get to the next level. And when you're going through this material, you're going to find out that it's just you. It's just your dream, a fantastic dream. And the fantastic dream means something to you, not to them, because they have a different perception of reality. They can't see what you see. So you have to write this stuff down, commit it to memory, repeat it, be obsessed by your goal, keep thinking about your goal, keep writing it down. And only you know your goal. Like my goal was to make 1.75 because I thought it was something realistic. But then when I attracted it, I started going for higher goals, and I didn't have a job. I wasn't working at the loan modification clinic. I was just doing marketing for the loan modification clinic. I was working in other areas where it just happened, because you're not dealing with something logical. You're dealing with something illogical, something that they tell you that it doesn't make any sense, right? So what makes sense is going to school, getting a job, and having a family, and getting ahead and buying a house. That makes sense because it's harder and you have to put in the work, right? But that doesn't bring riches. Napoleon Hill says riches, when they come, if they come at all, they're based upon definite demand, not by mere chance or luck. So you have to find something that I guess makes sense, but it doesn't have to make a lot of sense. So when you use the higher faculty, you're using your imagination and your will to focus on the picture. Your imagination and the will. What is the will? The ability to concentrate on the picture. So create a picture of something that you really want. It could be a house, it could be a certain salary, it could be, a car, a relationship. Write it down, put a date on it, and keep reading it to yourself at night before you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. Go into meditation, go into harmony, and start picturing these things, right? The subconscious mind, through repetition, is going to pick it up. Once it goes into the subconscious mind, it starts producing the fact, okay? When it starts producing the fact, people are gonna come to you that have something to do with your major definite purpose, with what you wrote down. They're going to come to you. They're going to say, hey, guess what? You know, I have this. And I see it happen with my sister because she wrote it down. She wrote down, I want to make $1.44 million. Now, I don't know where she got 1.44 million, but she was looking for that goal. Now, something happened. I'll let her tell you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we get her on the call because she's you know, setting up her house. She just bought the house out here in California. But something happened where she attracted the same amount of money that she wanted. And I'll let her explain that to you guys. But that's how this stuff works. There's a story of Bob Proctor when he was talking to John Canary, where John Canary was Bob Proctor's partner back in the 80s, 90s. And John Canary was talking to Bob about Jack Canfield. Now, you guys might not know who Jack Canfield is, but he wrote a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Now, he had told Bob Proctor, I'm going to sell millions of copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And Bob, he teaches what I teach, right? I work with him. And Bob told Jack Canfield, like, I don't think that's possible, right? But then in the interview that he was doing with John Canary, Bob said, you know, I couldn't tell Jack Canfield that was impossible because we deal with what is impossible. That's what we're talking about, something that's impossible, and we're going to make it possible, right? That's what we're dealing with, something impossible. So he had to reiterate, he had to rethink what he was saying. And he told Jack Canfield, like, you know what? Nothing's created, nothing's destroyed. Everything wants already here. Yeah, it's possible. So, you know, sure enough, a couple years later, Jack Canfield sold millions of copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And not only did he sell millions of copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul, he went on to end up in the Guinness Book of World Records for most books ever sold. So it's true. Andrew Carnegie, what he said, it's true. Any idea that's emphasized, that's repeated, that's either feared or revered, meaning it happened. Any idea that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, taking over the subconscious mind will begin to clothe itself in its most convenient fashion. It will begin to produce the fact. The reason that you're looking at the facts with your lower faculty, or what you can see, is because you've been programmed to use the facts. Just like an attorney, when you're building a case, you're looking at all the facts of, well, that was already there. You know, he's wealthy because he comes from wealth, and that's why he's wealthy. But the fact is that wealthy people study this material and maybe subconsciously don't even realize how they're doing it, but they're using their higher faculty, their imagination. They're using their imagination and they're programming themselves for wealth, for residual income from multiple sources. But you weren't programmed that way. Most of us weren't. Most of us were programmed to go to college. Now, Elon Musk with Tesla saying, hey, you guys want to work with Tesla, you don't need a college school. So the story behind Thomas Edison is really interesting, because when Thomas Edison was creating the incandescent light bulb, a lot of people don't know this, but when he was in elementary, he got kicked out for being stupid. And then his mom had to tell him that he was the smartest student in school, and he was so smart that he couldn't go to school with the rest of the boys, with the rest of the kids. So he said, his mom told him, I'm gonna have to educate you at home, Thomas Edison, right? So that's where he was educated, at home. He had homeschooling from his mom, but she tricked him. She told him the opposite. People thought he was stupid. She told him he was too smart to go to school. And guess what? He ended up growing up and changed the way we operate on this planet. He created the incandescent light bulb. Yeah, it took him close to 10,000 failures, but guess what? He didn't give up. And through one of the failures, they figured out what the radio frequency was. They didn't know what the radio frequency was. So what is the radio frequency? Well, there's no wires. When you jump in your car, you have the luxury of turning on a radio and listening to a radio station, whichever radio station you want. Now, Wallace Waddles, when he talks about the ether, when he talks about the space between me and you, he's talking about a frequency. He's talking about different frequencies and different dimensions within the space. Now, right now, I'm sitting out here in California doing the call. I'm feeling the wind. I'm feeling the wind hit my hands, my face, right? I'm feeling the wind. It's coming in from this way, but I can't see where it's coming from. I can feel where it's coming from, but I can't see it. And that's the same thing that happens when it comes to your dream. That's the same thing that I want you to understand about this information, because this information is all around you. It's intelligent. It's looking to become. So you want to utilize this information to create the life that you desire, the life that you want, not the life that you don't want, not the life that you're talking about that, oh, what am I going to do? You know, I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment, all this broke conscience, poverty conscience that you've been programmed to think poverty. When you see a mom go to the store and she tells a kid, you're not going to buy that, I can't buy you that, the kid starts crying. I was one of those kids, right? I'm not sure if you were, but I was programmed to think poverty conscience. But I broke that program. I broke that program through this information because I kept studying, I kept listening, I kept doing the Zoom calls. You know, I didn't care who was on the call. I didn't care if there was 5 people, 2, nobody on the call. I haven't looked to see who's on the call, right? I stuck to my goal. And I bet on myself. When I was starting my company back in 2013 or 14, people told me it's not going to work, you know, and I did it. When I started cryptolifeschool.com, people said, oh, you know, it's not going to work. We had a student sign up yesterday. When I started Wealth Mindset Group, what does that have to do with cryptocurrency? You know what? We're teaching both. We're applying mindset to cryptocurrency. But that's my life. That's my dream. That's my fantastic dream. Yours might be something different. But whatever it is that you want, write it down, because if you're not going to write it down, you're not going to attract it. When you write it down, is like planting a seed. When you're reading it, is like watering the seed. When you're reading your goal, is like watering the seed. When you start acting as if, when you start playing the part and going out there and making the connections, networking, talking to the right people, and also people come to you too. People are going to look for you. That's the law of attraction at work. That's mastering the law of attraction. Mastering the law of attraction is like learning something every single day, the same thing. That's why I always say on my calls, keep the main thing the same thing, or keep the same thing the main thing. However you want to put it, but basically repeat to yourself these things, the goal. So an A-type goal is something you know how to do. A B-type goal is something you think you can do. And a C-type goal is something you have no idea how it's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to happen. That's a C-type goal, is something that scares you, where you go from something you're not good at, like me, right? I wrote a book. We haven't published it yet, but I never knew anything about writing books, right? I signed up to Peggy McCall's course, and I went through her course and I wrote a book. How did I write the book? Well, I used the text-to-speech app. I just talked to the phone, and it wrote out everything that I wanted. And I hired an editor, and they went through it. So I'm not good at writing books, but I gave it a shot, and I didn't give up. So take something that you're not good at and master it, you know, and apply yourself. That's how this stuff works, guys. It works because you're creating something from nothing. Nothing is like the zero gravity field. Zero gravity meaning it's neither positive or negative. It just is. Just like the internet. once are here. So going back again, you want to create something from nothing. That's how this stuff works. The people that need it the most are on here the least. And the people that need it the least are on here the most. You know, Bob Proctor, he wakes up every day at 5 in the morning and he reads the same material over and over again. He'll grab the book Think and Grow Rich and he'll just go to like chapter 4 and he'll just read chapter 4 for 9 months or 6 months. Why? Because every time he reads it, he gets something that he didn't get before. He figures out something about himself or about the things that he wants that he didn't figure out before. Repetition is your best friend. Repetition is your best friend. I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. The hard part is having faith and giving up. The hard part is tricking your subconscious because of the program. That's the hard part, is tricking your subconscious to making yourself believe that that's who you are. And psychology, that's why I talk about William James. Psychology has a lot to do with this because it's your belief system that you believe in. Now, I was actually doing some research and I found out that the trees that you see through millions of years, they go into the ground, okay? So when they grab oil, they're grabbing oil from those trees that have been in the ground, in the planet. That's where the oil comes from. Now, the crazy part is that oil is used to drive your car, right? They purify it and they make gasoline for you to drive your car. Now, the ether is the same way. It's the same way. You grab water, you burn it, it turns into a cloud. You burn the cloud, it turns into ether. Now they scientists had did an experiment and they said, you know, we don't need gasoline to drive a car, right? Which is totally illogical because if you drive the car for a long time, it's gonna die out on you. But they figured out that you didn't need gasoline to drive your car because you've been programmed to think that you need gasoline to drive a car, which is totally upside down because if you're talking to a normal person, they're going to say, Ross, you need gasoline to drive the car because it's gasoline and it's energy and you need that to drive the car. But when you talk about like telekinesis, like moving objects with your mind actually has a weight. It's a force. After years of research, they figured out that your mind has weight. It might not be 1 pound. It might be like 0.00001, right? But it has a weight to it, your mind. So because it's a force, you can utilize the tool that you have to create the life that you want. And that's what these calls are about, is for you to realize the truth, because the truth is up to you. Everyone has a different truth. Everyone has a different belief system, but your belief system is everything. William James, the psychologist, he says that your belief system is based upon your evaluation of something. Frequently, if you reevaluate the situations, your beliefs about that situation will change. So reevaluate the situation. If you see something negative, turn it into something positive, right? And the more you do that, the more you're going to realize that your outside world is going to change. Excuse me. So this is about thinking positive thoughts and changing your belief system, believing something that is not here or not real long enough until it appears. And better yet, act as if it's already here, because nothing's created, nothing's destroyed, and we're dealing with different dimensions and different frequencies. So connect to the frequency and the dimension of where you want to be and act as if. That's why yesterday I talked about, like what Bob says, act the part, act as if. It's very difficult to go against what's normal, because what is normal is like 99% of people are looking at what normal is, right? Looking at a paycheck, looking at college, looking at wealthy people and how they made it. But it's not always so. When wealthy people make it, subconsciously, they don't understand how they made it, but they could tell you, yeah, I use my imagination. Like Thomas, I would take that nap, I would let the thought communicate to me. But you got to break this down. And that's what Napoleon Hill and Bob Proctor have done. That's what I have done, is break this down, explain it as if you're talking to a child. A child has an imagination and has fantasy. They go there. They go into wonderland, into fantasy. The whole purpose is to go into fantasy, into your imagination, and to structure out how you want your life to be. Not how it is right now, how you want your life to be, to make it real. When Einstein, Isaac Newton created gravity, right? But Einstein was looking at the law of relativity, and they were trying to condense the zero gravity field, the air, okay, from you and me. They were trying to condense the air, okay? But they couldn't condense it because it has no one or two or plus. It has no field. They can't condense it because it's everywhere, but you can't see it. It's everywhere, but you can't see it, guys. It's everywhere, but you can't see it. The only thing you can see is what you've been programmed to see. I see a cat, that's a cat. I see a pig, a horse, that is what it is. I see poverty, that's what it is. I see what I see and I make judgments about it, either positive or negative. I see what I see and I let it dictate my life. I let other people tell me how my life should be. I let other people tell me, well, you're not going to make it. You're from the wrong side of the tracks. You don't know how to eat right. I got that one too. You don't know how to eat right. You shouldn't be rich. But when you're rich, you have to know how to eat right. You're going to go out to a nice restaurant. You have to know where the fork is and where the knife and how to eat right. But it's a representation. My grandfather would say, always look right, wear a tie, be professional. Appearances. And appearances are important, but I could care less what other people think of me, right? Because I had a hard time, just like Bob Proctor, when I got this information. And it took me a while to shake that poverty consciousness. But the reality is whatever you want is just something that is energy that was produced to make that thing. A car, house, it was all made from the same thing, and it was all created by the same thing. The energy is looking to become. It's looking to be condensed from the space. It's looking to create something, whatever it is. Now, your mind is the same way. You can create things through your mind, through controlling your thoughts. That's why we talk about William James, guys, because William James was a psychologist, and he said that you have about 60,000 thoughts a day. So pick out those thoughts, the ones you want, the ones that are going to help you get to the next level. Your mind is all over the place. You have to bring order, harmony. Like they told Andrew Carnegie, how do you make steel if you don't know anything about the manufacturing of steel? And he's like, well, guess what? We hire the right people and we work in harmony towards the same objective. Henry Ford, same way. They were trying to make the V8 engine. It's not possible. We can only have a V6. He's like, when you figure it out, let me know. He said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't is up to you. You're right. Because both truths, or what you believe to be truths, are the same, are real. So I guess you could say there's two versions of the truth, right? If that's how you want to put it, there's always two versions of the truth. There's your good version and the bad version. But you've been programmed to choose one, not to choose both, right? And you shouldn't choose both, because you don't want to choose, because you have to land on one. You know, it's like one, like when you go past go, when you hit start, there's only one start. There's not two starts or two finish lines. There's only one finish line. So you got to land that thought to just one finish line or one start line, right? So you grab the energy, you formulate a picture, you go into fantasy, you create a theory, and then the theory becomes a fact. Just like a triangle: fantasy, theory, fact. You don't go from fact to theory to fantasy, because the facts are already there. You're making them through the zero gravity, through the mind, through the energy. You're making these things, and then they appear. So they did a study and they said, hey, you know, was the tree that fell in the forest, do you see it fall? No, it was there. Okay, so the question is, did the tree fall before you get there, or was it programmed to be there? So there's a lot of theories. Do we live in a simulation? You know, is our reality multiple realities, right? There's a lot of different theories, but what I do know is this: if you want to master the law of attraction, you want to master yourself. You want to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself something that might not have arrived yet, and believe it. Totally confident about you. Can't let anyone you can't let anyone make you doubt you, or make you doubt this information. What information am I talking about? Okay, going back again, Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. If you don't have the book, I would encourage you to get the book, because this is all he says throughout the book. He says, there's a thinking stuff from which all things are made. A thought impressed upon the stuff produces the thing that's imagined by the thought. What are you imagining? What are you producing? It's looking to become a thought. You know, it's looking to be. There's a thinking stuff from which all things are made. It made a plastic bottle. It made water. It made a wallet. It made a pen. And if it didn't make it through through the mind, it made it through the universal mind, through the way God operates. Water, trees, fishes, because your mind accepted it. Your mind said, you know, this is reality, because there is a reality, but the reality and the imagination have to coexist. They have to connect. Otherwise, it's not going to work for us or for God. It has to work for us, for God. The dream world and the reality has to coexist, and it comes together through the subconscious mind, through Victor, like Ronaides. You can plant nightshade, a deadly poison, and not even a 16th of an inch away, you can plant corn, a sweet food. Corn, a sweet food, and nightshade, a deadly poison, and they're not even 16th of an inch away, and they can coexist. Your positive thought and your negative thought are right next to each other, but you have to choose the right one. You have to eliminate the negative thoughts. It's just like a basketball game. You go left, you pivot left, you pivot right. But you want to pivot right because you want to be a winner. Pivoting left means that you're going to pivot negative, 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 negative. When you start understanding this information, you start pivoting right, positive, 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 positive. And then you win. You attract, you get the thing that you want. Yeah, it's gonna take time, but how long would it take for you to work a job? 30 years? You're gonna sit there and work till you're 65 to depend on a pension. And then your pension might be taken away. It's not guaranteed, right? But like for me, I'm 38 years old. I'm a multimillionaire, traveling the world, helping my sister, helping the people around me. My circle's small. Everyone's wealthy. And I did it through this information because the subconscious mind, before we end the call, I'm gonna end it like this. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a penny and $1,000,000. Through repetition, the subconscious mind must accept. What is repetition? I'm so happy and grateful. Money comes to me in increasing quantity through multiple sources on a continuous basis. Repetition to you might mean I'm so happy and grateful now that I have 5 properties paid off. I have residual income from rent income. I have multiple sources of income. I have, $5 million in my saving account. Sign it, write it down. You have nothing to lose. In my case, I lost everything I had in 2000. I had a degree in finance and investment management, but I got tired of doing the same thing and getting the same results. So what did I do? I started listening to Napoleon Hill. I started listening to the Laws of Success. I started listening to Think and Grow Rich. I started working with Bob Proctor, and everything else changed. Napoleon Hill says it was very difficult for him to get rid of the poverty consciousness because his mother died at an early age and he had to figure it out on his own. But he got rid of that poverty consciousness. He said, now I just teach people this stuff, but I don't have to worry about poverty because I'm financially set. I don't have to work. I'm not in the rat race. So if you're part of that rat race, if you're out there in traffic, pissed off, trying to get to work, then you need to listen to these calls. You need to understand that there's a thinking stuff from which all things are made. And when you impress your thought upon this thinking stuff, it produces what you were thinking about, your thoughts. That's why Bob Proctor wrote a book called Thoughts Are Things. Thoughts are things. So thoughts become things. So like I said, there's the thinking stuff. All you got to do is just impress the subconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between a penny and $1,000,000. Through repetition, it goes in the subconscious mind, just like Napoleon Hill when he was making his book, Think and Grow Rich. The publisher's like, you need to pick a title, otherwise I'm going to pick one for you. He's like, well, what title are you going to pick for me? He's like, use your noodle or get the boodle. He's like, that title's going to ruin me. So he said, I knew the law. I knew that the subconscious mind must accept. So I got into a big fight with my subconscious mind by myself in my apartment and started telling myself, you're going to give me $1,000,000 title. And then guess what? At 3, 4 in the morning, Napoleon Hill woke up and Think and Grow Rich was in his mind. He called the publisher. He said, I got the title. He's like, oh, it's 4 in the morning. What's the title? I'm sleeping right now. He's like, Think and Grow Rich. He's like, there you go. You got it. And he's like, it's not only $1,000,000 title, it's a multi-million-dollar title. Think and Grow Rich. How did Think and Grow Rich come? Because he was telling his subconscious mind, you're going to give me $1,000,000 title. It's like when you think of a car, you think of a car, you keep thinking of the same car, the same color. Just like when I was with my friend Johnny and Jeff, we're in California and we're driving through Hollywood, and me and Johnny worked at a mortgage company. He had a silver Lexus, a coupe. And me and Jeff were talking about the coupe, the silver Lexus that Johnny had. All 3 of us were in a car. And then we turned left, we turned right, and guess what we see? A silver Lexus coupe right in front of us. And the chances of that happening, I'm not going to say they're rare, but you're not going to see a Lexus coupe 2-door all the time. A silver one, especially, right? But guess what? We did. But 5 minutes before that, we were just talking about it. And that's how this works. Talk about your life as if the life that you want is already here. Talk about you being happy, healthy, wealthy. Talk about you having multiple sources of income. You keep talking about it, it's going to manifest into physical reality. That's why these calls are so important, because you have to have them. Okay, so I hope you guys found this call useful, and I'm gonna end the call. I want to thank everyone for being on the call, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Once again, this call is recorded and it's going to be available at Wealth Mindset Group on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And you guys enjoy your day. Take notes tomorrow. I'll see you guys on the call. Peace out. This is Ross Garcia. Have a good one, guys.